Welcome. We are going to talk about idioms today because I noticed when I was at work talking to one of my coworkers, she says I say too many expressions and she has no idea what they mean, and I try and explain what they mean, and she has no idea where they come from.
Is she, first of all, just so I can get some context, was she born here and raised here?
Yes.
Because I feel that idioms are especially challenging to people who didn't grow up in the United States because of the fact that there are weird, knowing idioms, they don't make a lick of sense to even people who live here, but we've heard them so many times they make sense.
Right. These will be American idioms,
So-
and these will be described to, let's say, somebody from a younger generation, commonly
Okay.
called millennials.
Is she a member of the younger generation?
Yes, she's a millennial
Okay.
and largely raised in an urban setting.
Okay. I really actually, maybe the show should be us focusing on me asking questions about her that you may or may not know the answer to.
That would be interesting.
Okay.
But I think maybe
Maybe
we
another
should-
show we'll
maybe
focus
another
on
show,
her. All right.
because, like, for example, I told her the other day. I said I really got the short shrift on that.
Mm-hmm.
So short shrift. You have any idea where that comes from?
I would assume the Shrifts were a very popular singing act in the 40s. It was Mama Shrift, Papa Shrift, Adorable Joey Shrift, and then there was Peanut Shrift, and he was the short shrift. The Shrift family were very talented musicians and singers, both. But Peanut had neither of those talents.
Right.
So when you say you got the short shrift, it's basically saying you got the talentless loser
I see.
son or child in that case.
Well,
but in your thing, it would be you got I was going to say the short end of the
short end
raw
of the stick.
deal or whatever I was going to say. So
Right.
you got the bad thing. So
Okay,
that's
so
where that one comes from.
That might have been accurate, and it probably applied well. But I think it goes back further than that. I think it goes back to the 16th century, and it relates to the shrift is a confession in a Catholic church. So during the confessional, that is your shrift, and it was often said that the English monarchy at the time had rather short shrifts. Maybe they weren't professing all their sins,
their
maybe?
sins?
Yeah. I don't know how that translates into short shrift, so I think that maybe your peanut shrift.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to agree
Okay.
to disagree on this one, but I'm right. Okay.
All right. So we'll go to a classic. She understood what raining cats and dogs was, but she didn't understand where it came from. I have some ideas, but maybe you have some.
So, first of all, if it's raining cats and dogs, originally this was the way to prevent, you would actually skewer the animals as they came down upon you,
that
and
makes
then
sense.
to clean it up, you would open it up. I'm not opening it up because it's bad luck.
It is bad luck.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
And it's against a couple laws, but I don't know if they fall within the city of Blaine. But I believe that one came from in the Middle Ages, when they would run out of tar to actually pour over castle walls. They would just fill big buckets with cats and dogs. They just, in castles are like cats and dogs pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Throw some food in there, the cats and dogs would run in, and then you pour hot whatever. I don't think it was actually lava that they were getting
No,
in.
I remember them doing tar.
Tar would probably be what it would be.
Yeah.
They ran out of that because
But they had lots of cats and dogs.
back in the day, the cats and dogs were everywhere. So
They're a dime a dozen.
they clean out. In order to get the cats and dogs in, you have to actually clean out the tar, though.
Okay.
So they would actually spend their time cleaning it out, then throw some food in there. The cats and dogs would, of course, go in. They're hungry.
Okay.
And then they would pour the cats and dogs onto the oncoming soldiers.
All right. So I wasn't sure, I was going to ask you about it, but I asked the smartest person I know, and the smartest person you know, Eric Houston. He's our public access manager here, and he's actually directing the show. And he actually told me the origin of this. Or like he had told me a different version. Okay. So basically, here's my graphic. So at a time in Old England, and consequently back to America.
Is this the Old England that would have originated Old English malt liquor?
I think so.
Okay. I
Oh,
just
maybe,
want to make
possibly.
sure. I want to make sure.
Well, they used to have straw on top of the houses.
Okay.
Shingles are expensive, so they'd have straw, and then the cats and dogs would go sleep up there. But if it started raining a lot, the cats and dogs would literally slip off of the roof and fall. So if it was raining very hard, they said it was raining cats and dogs because the cats and dogs would literally slide off the roof.
That sounds logical, but I think Eric and I are going to have to agree to disagree.
Okay.
And I'm right in this case.
All right. So those explanations are probably not worth a hill of beans, which brings up another one.
Wait, did you just backdoor idiom me?
Hill of beans.
Oh. Well, this one I've actually, I haven't needed to research just because I knew it.
Right.
It's kind of one of those things that's just out in the ether, and I just kind of just pulled right into my mind.
Well, I was confused. Like, is it stacks of baked beans? Is
Well,
it a whole bunch of cans stacked together?
It actually goes back to the like turn of the century. There was actually a hill that James J. Hill created, completely comprised of beans, and it was actually at the time the most sought after piece of real estate. You could actually, the beans were so thick that you could actually build upon them. But unfortunately, due to some sort of erosion over time.
Erosion of beans, this is a very serious issue.
It caused the basements to flood.
We literally have no hills covered with beans anymore because of that.
And so what ended up happening was the hill itself became worthless because the basements kept flooding with water. I mean, the houses were beautiful, but at the end of the day, when you can't go down into the basement because it's filled with water, what's the point? So the hill itself became dilapidated, and it was worth nothing, and that's where the phrase came from.
See,
Idiom came from.
I asked Eric about that as well.
Okay.
And he had some crazy notion that beans weren't worth very much. They're the easiest plant to grow, and so a hill of beans is probably the least valuable agricultural product you can make. But obviously, he didn't do any research and was being kind of lazy because the James J. Hill connection makes perfect sense.
I mean, he makes very good, valid points in that, but we'll have to agree to disagree.
Okay.
And I'm right in this case. The other thing is that now, like, I would say you're going to say it's not worth a hill of beans, but to the people at Chipotle, a hill of beans is worth a lot of revenue to them. Like every single burrito they're making, there's more beans they need. If they had a whole hill of beans, they'd be.
Okay. So the people at Chipotle might view beans as costing a lot. Maybe costing an arm and a leg.
Do you think,
which is our next
when
idiom.
the people at Chipotle are saying like, man, I would give a hill of beans right now for a cold beer.
Right.
I don't know. They also have maybe like to drink after work. Maybe
Right,
that's
right,
it.
yeah.
So,
Which could be another topic.
yeah, could be. Should be.
Okay.
Will be.
So if Chipotle people are valuing the beans, maybe there's some expensive beans, they're literally costing them an arm and a leg.
I have a feeling.
Where did that come from?
I have a feeling there would be some artisanal beans. I'm sorry, say that again now. I'm sorry, I was too busy coming up with an artisanal beans.
Well, the artisanal beans sound very nice.
Yeah.
Would they cost an arm and a leg?
Oh, would they cost an arm and a leg? Are you backdoor idioming me with that comment? Because it sounds to me like you idiomed me And then you just idiomed me with a arm and a leg idiom.
Yeah, we're getting deep. This is like the
Oh, man,
inception
the
of idioms.
Get a top.
Right.
I would say that yes. No. Because somebody at Chipotle needs their arm and their leg to make those burritos and tacos. So they would actually, no, I guess by my own logic, that an arm and a leg would be worth a great deal to them. And so therefore, yes. To somebody who works at Chipotle, an arm and a leg and a hill of beans have the exact same monetary value.
Okay.
Or emotional value, whatever you want to place on it. To normal people, a hill of beans is not worth that said hill of beans.
Okay. So I like the hill of beans. Like that, we think we covered that. Do you want me to get into what I heard, an arm and a leg, where that comes from, or do you want to speculate?
I mean, I could speculate and blow smoke places, but I could also tell you exactly where the arm and a leg comes from.
I think we're ready for that.
All right. So back in the early 1700s, we're talking about 1714 to 1715, there was a Jerry Lewis style telethon, except for the fact that they didn't have televisions back then.
Right.
So really, it was just a guy on the back of the wagon who would just kind of make his way through towns. And what he would do is they needed blood of transfusions for people, right? But it was impossible to actually bring blood to people. Like there was no.
I don't think that was invented yet either back then.
Well, I think it was.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, they didn't have needles and they didn't like suck it into bags and all that stuff. So what they would do is he would go around and say, it was actually Jerry Lewis ripped his whole telethon bit off from historical accounts of this man who would go town to town on the back of a wagon. And what they would do is they would go town to town and ask people to give them an arm or a leg to actually transport the blood, and then they would put the blood in leeches, and then the people who needed the blood would then eat the leeches, and then therefore they would get the blood that they needed. The reason they did it in an arm is because they felt that the only way that they could transport blood would be by actually going in and taking the arm off of somebody or the leg off of somebody. It was kind of, depending upon what you needed more, and then bring it to the person who needed it, and then do this complicated leeches transaction that I'm referencing. So it all goes back to this 17, 14, and 15. The only reason it lasted only 2 years was because nobody really was willing to give an arm or a leg, and that's kind of how they realized, wait,
we got to come up with a better system.
We can't do this. Doesn't make sense because people apparently think their arms or their legs are more important than anything else. They were willing to give money to help these people, but they were not willing to give an arm or a leg.
Okay.
And so that's where it comes from.
You know what? I asked Eric Houston that same question. That is literally the exact story he gave too.
This is what I've always said about Eric. I've always said, first of all, I've said he's handsome.
Right.
But that goes without saying. But I've always said he's smart. Mm-hmm. And I think in this scenario right here, we illustrate where two smart people have the exact same knowledge inside, and I think that it should be celebrated when there's a shared wisdom among humanity.
Okay. His assistant said that Casa and arm and a leg came from World War I, where the soldiers who often lost arms and legs in that war said it was a high cost. So the war actually cost them an arm and a leg. So that's what his assistant said, but I think you and Eric are right.
Yeah, all of that does check out and really kind of makes sense, but I think in this case I'm probably right too. We can agree to disagree, but I'm right.
Agree, disagree with the assistant.
With the assistant. Eric, agree with 100%.
Do you think the assistant was?
All right. Are you backdoor point idioming me? And do you think he was barking up the wrong tree?
I think that's where we want to go.
Okay.
Barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
Another idiom.
And this one is one that has a rich history. There's actually two possible backstories to this one. I can give you the other one. I'll give you one. The other one is not something that is suitable to be aired on television.
All right.
But
let's not hear that other one then.
no, I'm not even thinking about it.
Yep.
But the one that I feel might, and it also is probably the correct one, is that often since dogs are so intelligent and they have an empathy with animals, other animals, that they would typically when hunting bear, they would intentionally bark up a tree that an animal was not in, and this was a way to fool the hunters into going and shooting up into the tree.
I see.
And that would give the other bear enough time. See, what then the bear would do in the other tree is he would then jump from tree to tree and then scurry down another tree. And then, if they timed it right and the dog kept barking and the guns firing, the guys just shooting blindly up into the tree, the bear would come behind the hunter and jump on the hunter and maul the hunter, and then the dog and the bear would go in, steal all the hunter's stuff, and then they would go out into the woods. So when you're barking up the wrong tree, you're making the wrong decision, and that wrong decision is you're about to get blindsided by a bear who is in league with your dog, who's supposed to be your best friend, and all your stuff's going to get stolen. So that's where that one comes from.
That makes sense. I had heard it was dogs just literally barking at the wrong tree when the prey jumped from one tree to the other, but I didn't know the whole full story because it happened before this century.
Yeah, and it was bears. They don't look it, but they're very acrobatic.
All right, so we got one left.
Okay.
I got time for one more.
One more.
Yeah. I'm thinking that I've enjoyed this. I'm actually on cloud 9.
That's an idiom, isn't it?
It is.
So, and that one derives from actually 2015. There was a review of the movie Cloud Atlas. And the reviewer had said, this came out, it was very underrated. I went and I actually have rewatched it 9 times. And I have found the peak pleasure in my life having watched that movie 9 times. This reviewer was able to tell every actor and which character they were playing despite heavy makeup, and all the storylines seemed to make sense after watching it 9 times. So that is why Cloud 9, it's kind of a mashup of the 9 times they watched Cloud Atlas and Cloud Atlas itself. Because I'm on Cloud Atlas 9 doesn't sound good. But if it's like I'm on Cloud 9, it's kind of meaning, I'm elated. I've watched Cloud Atlas 8 times. Now I'm on it for my 9th time, and I just feel kind of at peace.
I'm impressed that someone watched it 9 times. Yeah.
This reviewer apparently needed to actually get to the bottom of it.
I see that.
Yeah.
Well, you want to know what
get to the bottom of something an idiom?
It is, but you want to know what Eric said?
What did he say?
was. He said that in the 1950s, the U.S. Weather Bureau classified clouds, and cloud number 9 was the big white fluffy clouds. Those were the most desirable clouds. So, weathermen were, I want to be on that cloud.
That sounds plausible, but
it doesn't have anything to do with Cloud Atlas, so clearly.
Well, exactly. Right there, we'll agree to disagree on this one, but I'm right on this. I'm on that one.
All right.
Origin.
So we just discussed barking up the wrong tree, costing an arm and a leg, getting a short shrift, raining cats and dogs, and hill of beans, and cloud 9. Well done.
I mean, I'm gonna actually pat myself on the back. Is that an idiom, or is that just?
I think that's what you're doing right now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, literally. Okay, well, thanks for joining us as we explained the origins of some of these idioms. Good night.
Thank you.